So, after the last couple of weeks, trolling people who were saying the Chinese diesel heaters are crap, and my stance has always been, for what I pay for mine, £89 I think it was, mine has been brilliant. Well, guess what happened? Right in the middle of a cold spell, it cut out one morning, about a week ago, and basically it will run but at a reduced speed. It wasn't heating up much. It would go into a cool down, switch off cycle. It's throwing E08 errors, the odd E10 error. I wasn't sure initially what it was, and then I started to look at the fuel. I know E08 is a fuel or a burn issue, so it was either glow plug or fuel supply. Well, we took the glow plug apart, and it's not it's not brilliant because it's 18 months old and it's had fairly decent usage, but it wasn't really coked up. The burn chamber, or the actual, I don't know if you can see that very well. No, I can't get a better view, but no, there is some soot in there, but nothing major. The fan's running fine, like literally everything seemed okay. So I was starting to think that it was an issue with the fuel delivery. Now, while I was actually trying to fix this, I broke the fuel filter, one of the nipples on the fuel filter, without realising, and I flooded my van with diesel. Now, I actually laid in it without realising, and I soaked up my t-shirt, which then proceeded to burn my chest through diesel. So be careful on that one. But basically, where we're at now, there's a little gauze. So if I come back, this is the burn chamber here. The fuel, or not the burn chamber, but part of the burner. So the fuel comes in through this pipe. Let me get my finger on it. There it is. So the fuel comes in through this pipe. There's a gauze, like a thimble, in there. That was clear, that wasn't blocked, but then we couldn't actually, or I couldn't blow air through that pipe. And I found this. That's all it was, just a little bit of crud, and it was stopping the fuel from coming through at the right rate. So now I'm going to put it all back together and see if I can get it to fire up. Wish me luck. Just like to reassemble this now. There's a gasket that sits under this. You can't mistake it, it's shaped to go into the right place. Then there's 4 fixing bolts, all Allen key. Once that's back together, then the fan assembly goes back in on top. I'll get the glow plug in before I put it all back together, because I'm pretty sure that's fine. I'm pretty sure my issue all along was that blockage on that fuel inlet pipe. So I'll finish putting it back together, and then I'll wire it all back in again. So I've got the internal put back together, I've got the glow plug back in. I just thought I'd cover this boot. Now this boot actually seals that chamber, so it's vitally important, I think, that you get that back in, because as you can see, that seals the top of the glow plug. So if there was ever a problem with that glow plug leaking anything back, you'd get exhaust gases into your van. So just make sure that that bung goes back in. I'm just about to clean all the rest before I put the fan assembly back and get it all back in the van. But I just wanted to point that bit out while I was putting it back together, because it is pretty important in my opinion, so don't forget that one. The gaskets on these, I've seen green papery ones. If you look, this one seems to have a pretty decent gasket. Now when I took it apart, that literally was so loose, it just literally, I undone the 4 bolts and it fell off as such. So the gasket's been doing its job. When I put it back together, I'm just going to put a little bit of sealant in around the outside, just because the gasket's been compressed. I'm not going to put a new one in because it would mean cleaning everything up, and it's been doing the job fine, so we'll give that a go. So it's all put back together and put in. Give it a blow off an airline in a minute. needs a new gasket. That was the one thing I definitely need, and if you're going to do a repair on this, I advise, there's a rubber gasket that sits all around here. It had gone hard all around the exhaust side. It peeled off around here, no problem, but this had all gone hard, so it needs a new one. Luckily I've got a new one in the kit that's supplied with a new heater, but yeah, I'll order another one of those and that'll be that. So the diesel heater's back in. I haven't put the case back on, but it's all connected up. I've just turned it on. I've literally now just got to wait and see if it'll actually heat up. Before the fan speed it was only getting up to half speed, so it just wouldn't generate any heat. But I've taken there's priming there, you can hear the pump. I took my back panel off, which gave me real good access. I actually intend on changing all of this when I redo my shower. I'm going to have a big water tank outside, the diesel tank's going to be underneath, because at the moment I've got a 20 litre diesel tank, 20 litre hot water tank and 120 litre fresh water, but I'm going to change all that around and I should end up with all of that lot spare, which means I can increase the underneath size. Major's just sat there chilling out while I've dismantled everything, bless him. But yeah, that's first fire up since I put it all back together. I've got it on a low temperature, so I'm just going to wait for it to kick in and then I'm going to ramp it up, and if it comes up to temp and doesn't cut out, then I know we're all good. So I'll touch back in a little bit. So I'm currently sat in the van. Everything's come on. The glow plug's working. The pump's priming. And I've now got 2 blue dots, so I'm waiting for the 2 yellow ones and then the 2 red ones. I've ramped it up to maximum temperature, and I can already hear that fan is spinning faster than it did before. So far so good, hopefully, but in fact I'll keep that back up there. So we'll keep it on maximum temperature and I'll just stay here. There we go, yellow one straight away. So what it was doing before, it would come up with all the lights, so 2 blue, 2 yellow, 2 red, and then very quickly I'd lose 1, then 2 reds, then I'd lose a yellow, and it would run for a little while on 2 blues and 1 yellow, and then it would just switch off and come up with fault code E08. And as you saw earlier, I literally had a clog in the inlet, so we'll keep an eye on this for a little while. It should go up to 2 yellows pretty quickly. What I'll do is I'll stop for a second, because I'm sure you don't want to sit here watching yellow light. So I'll just hold fire. You can see how it's been running now, or it's been connected back up for 5 minutes. That's not 5 minutes run time, that was 5 minutes when I put the fuse back in. Oh, we got an extra yellow, so I might as well stay here actually, because the next one that comes up should be 2 red ones after the yellow lights, and I haven't seen them for days. So to recap, my diesel heater was running fine for 18 months. People were on various Facebook groups knocking the Chinese diesel heaters, as they do. I went on there defending them. Typical. Mine's been running for 18 months, it's been fine. And then literally the following day, early in the morning, it conked out. I woke up, it was a bit chilly in the van. I thought, it's quiet, can't hear the diesel heater. And then I saw the fault code, and it's been a week of trying everything until I got to today and thought, right, that's it. I've got a spare one now, so if it goes wrong I can change it. So I'm right this second, I'm waiting for a red one to come, and it hasn't, and I haven't heard the fan speed increase, so I've got a horrible feeling that this is going to throw me out again. I can hear the fan speed in the background, and it seems to be slightly slowing when it should actually be ramping up. So if I lose a yellow light, I'm just going to cut the video, because that will tell me that it's winding itself down. It does sound a bit that way, so maybe I haven't killed the problem yet. When it's on maximum temperature, it should have gone up to the red ones by now. It's just not. I think I'm about to lose a yellow one, which it tends to do when it slows down a little bit. I didn't need to prime the tank because I managed to snip the prime the pump, sorry. I managed to get some needle nose pliers that lock, and I clamped the fuel line so it wasn't losing fuel. I'm just going to lean down so I can feel any hot air coming out of the vents. No, nothing yet. So I'm not sure that this is. Oh, here we go. Oh, sorry about the steady hand. I was trying to rest on something. It was moving. So come back to that. So the funny thing is, looking at this, there's my Netgear Nighthawk. That's from my old MPPT, which I don't even use anymore, and that was from my original inverter, a 3 kilowatt inverter, Chinese carry back one, which actually worked fine, but I decided to upgrade and I went Victron. Alright, so we're still on the one red light. I want to see another one come up, and then I want to hear the fan really accelerate and kick in. There we go. So I've got my lights now. If they stay on, and I must admit this is already going longer than it did before, but if I start to lose one of those red lights, or if I lose both of them, then we know we're not in the clear. But the fan speed isn't accelerating the way I thought it would, and I can't feel much heat coming out yet. So I'm going to pause it there anyway, and I'll touch back if anything happens. So I've had this running now, as you can see, for 3 hours. It's on 25 degrees at the minute. I've gone up to 35 and run it for an hour. I've gone down low, run it for an hour, and then I've gone back up to 25 to run it for an hour. It's not missed a beat. So E08 is the error that was continuously coming up, but the actual issue, which I've not heard anybody else come up with, so this may well help somebody in the future. This is error E08, and the cause of it for me was a little blockage on the inlet pipe, actually part of the diesel heater. So where you connect your fuel pipe to the Chinese diesel heater, that nipple there is a pipe that extends on into the burn chamber, obviously, of the diesel heater, and there was a blockage on the inlet side, not on the outside, not the actual inside of the pipe, but the bit that you attach the nozzle to. So it was that end. It was a speck of dirt. Now I'm not quite sure how that appeared, because obviously I had a filter. Now I did notice my filter, one of the stems was broken just after it packed up the first time. So I ordered a new filter and refitted that. So I think between the two filters being attached is when the bit of crud got in and got lodged. So I'm thinking that my original error was caused by a broken fuel filter, and then compounded when I removed the fuel filter, and the piece of material ended up on the actual diesel heater itself. So for nearly a week I've not been able to get that diesel heater running the way it has now. So error E08 could also be a blockage to the fuel pipe supplying the diesel heater. So that's a new one for me. Not seen anywhere else. It might well help somebody else. So I'm going to wrap that up now. My van's lovely and toasty for the first time in a week. And even though I bought another Chinese diesel heater, the only part I've used off of that was the exhaust gasket. Or I should say, they call it the base gasket. So it's the gasket that goes between the heater and the floor of your van. That had gone really hard around the exhaust, although it was still malleable around the air intake. and I've now got to go and buy one of those to complete the other set. I'm going to fit the other diesel heater up under my driver's seat so that I can have heating at the front or the rear of the van, and it basically gives me a backup. If one fails, like I've had the problem with the last week or so, I can just switch to the other one until I sort it out. So I really hope this helps somebody down the line, but error E08, it can possibly be a blockage on that pipe on the diesel heater itself. So I'm sorry the video's a bit disjointed, but it's kind of sort of film as and when I'm discovering things. I've tried to make it as comprehensive as I can to explain the procedure, so hopefully somebody might well benefit from this in the future. But other than that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.